one tattoo that I got like a
Why
month or two ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Why didn't you tell us this?
Because I have to. There's explanations to all of them that I, of course, now have to tell each person who asks me.
So what the fuck?
I'll send you pictures.
I'm just gonna tell. Well, Shiloh sends me pictures of her tattoos when she gets them. You can't even.
But right now, one of them is like, they're all scabby.
See how you are?
Where did you get them?
They're on my arms. One is right here. One is right here, and two are right here.
Why?
Well done.
Why did you bring this up?
I don't know. All of us, because you know why? Because I got a little twinge from one of them just now because I just got them.
Are you really keeping them secret, or are you just fucking with us?
I'm not keeping them secret, but like you won't be able to see. There's, I have to like take pictures and like explain.
I mean, we're not in a whole lot better.
One of them is very easy to figure out.
I got this arm tattoo.
Yeah, I got a whole sleeve on this. I got sleeves on both arms.
Yeah, see. Anyway, okay, bye.
How does that work with like? Didn't you have the other one removed because for like acting, you don't want to have tattoos on your arms?
I'm over it. I don't care anymore.
Not an actor anymore.
Well, people think that was 20 years ago. People can cover tattoos better now. And also like people aren't, I don't know. I mean, I don't work as much as an actor anymore. I have so many other like hosting jobs as myself or like jobs behind the scenes. And like, I ain't getting any younger. I might as well do it now before my skin gets too saggy.
Tattoos hurt.
We need, they do.
I don't like getting tattooed.
I don't mind it.
I want to get here.
Please don't.
Here.
Ew, don't stop. We can't see what that is.
I can. It's not as bad as it's.
But you know what that looks like.
This is the safest thing he's talked about.
I was about to say something. We're on the public feed now, so I will not. But just know, it would be hilarious. What I was going to say.
Let's do it.
Right, I'm sure. It would be.
So, and what I want to know is it twins. You or Kyle who does this style? I'm thinking you, but Becky was just saying that something about it. Like a nature, so I want to do like a nature scape where it's like mountains, and I was thinking like a whole like mountains, pine trees, like a whole kind of scene up there, but then have like animal like elk and bear and mule deer, like but like bigger, like a big bear, just you know what I mean?
Either one of us would do it. It would just be different, but I mean, either one of us.
And then like an
elk
going.
Animal work is amazing, like amazing. Zach does amazing animal work. I was just looking at I was showing off your tattoos to my tattoo artist, saying, I guess I was basically saying like I would be getting these from him if you were here, but I didn't put it like that because she's wonderful. But it's Shiloh's. It's the daughter of the person that Shiloh goes to, and it's the guy. It's the girl who did her. She got a California poppy on her finger.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's that girl.
Yeah.
I drive an hour to see her.
I always assumed you, and it was I think. Because I think Michelle told Becky to the book one. She told to have Kyle do it, and she was just saying he does all these, and she was like showing me these nature. I'm like, but I think Zach does those too.
Yeah, I do a ton of nature stuff too.
Yeah. So you want to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I want Kyle to do it.
Yeah, I love tattooing animals.
No,
not tattooing the animal.
Tattoos frog. That's how you learn. You tattoo frogs on frogs.
Oh no.
Oh, you just kill a frog. I'm sorry.
I'm sure. I got a potty.
Okay.
Oh, it's been a journey, Janet.
Poor Zach.
It's been an absolute journey.
I'm so sorry when I'm not here, and I'm so sorry for me when you're not here.
I tried like 4 times to get him to stop.
I 100% know that to be true.
I could watch the number, like there's a number in the corner of people watching, and it was just like tink, tink, tink. There they go. There they go.
No.
There they go.
Is that true?
Yeah. 100%.
Oh no.
I don't know what we were at, but I was just watching them just like drop.
Like, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm out. Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh well.
It wasn't good at all. It wasn't good at all. No, that's awesome you got tattooed. I don't get tattooed anymore. That shit hurts.
I love that you're like, fuck that. Yeah, look, I'm not, of course I rolled right into like, these are areas that the skin is the most thin and sensitive, but like, this is where I want them.
It's not too terrible right there. I mean, if it's where you actually showed me, it's not too terrible right there. I mean, it's not great.
My skin is pretty freaking sensitive.
What are you doing?
On the underside of my,
Susan, I was pointing to
right for God's sake.
On the side of my
Good God.
Janet.
I'm so sorry.
This is my life.
I know, honey. I know.
This is my life.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Don't. Be so happy you don't live here. I would love for you to come visit, but just be happy you don't live here.
I mean, it's like he's trying to convince me of that every day.
Yeah, it's.
Susan apologized. She asked me where I was pointing.
Yeah.
This is my life.
Yeah.
This is my life.
Yep.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
When I get back, we need to get that scheduled. I've never wanted a leg tattoo, but then I thought,
well, you got these sexy legs now. You've been doing all this. Did you tell Janet? Did you tell her the news? Tell her the news. Tell her the number.
103 pounds. Down 100. Actually, today, as of today, is 103
That's so
pounds.
crazy. Congratulations.
Long journey, which is why it's hard for me to like switch my brain. Like the only way I can I've been able to do it is when I say like, this is it. This is your schedule. This is what you're doing.
Right.
And then I get afraid, like, if I just like take it easy for a week, then like, will I be able to flip that switch back on?
That's a very reasonable fear.
Because I still have 13 pounds to go to hit my actual like goal where I want to be. But we'll see. It could be, I don't know. When I went elk hunting, I lost 17 pounds in a week.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you'll lose weight on the trip.
But that was awful.
You know that I outweigh you by like 10 pounds right now?
Fatty.
I know, right?
All right. Okay. We don't do that here.
Yeah. Don't fat shame me.
It's funny because I outweighed him by 100 pounds for years.
Listen, my big sister's here and she'll kick your ass.
She can't reach me through the screen.
She'll eventually kick your
get
ass.
I'm gonna get you.
No, I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna dress up in a bear costume. I'm gonna get you.
Listen, guys, this may be the last time you see me before we go. Because as I mentioned, I'm going. It's just me and my brother, whose nickname is It'll Be Fine. Like that's Brent. Like, and we're in grizzly country, so you know, if we get into a pickle of a situation. And I go, hey, maybe we should. His response will be, it'll be fine.
Do you remember how terrified Mike was to go last time because of the Grizzlies?
I remember how terrified he was while we were there. We had to put an electric fence around our tent every night.
Yeah.
And then he still didn't sleep.
He told that story, yeah.
Yeah.
Terrified.
And then he got really upset because I was super fat then, so I snored real bad, and it sounded like I was calling bears. They would all get so mad at me because we'd go to bed and we all had our individual little tents, and you're like, you're literally doing a grizzly bear mating call in your sleep.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah. All right, we need to start this thing.
Let's roll.
This is my last. That's not my last piece of recording before my vacation, but tomorrow is. Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk to Amanda and Chris tomorrow, and then I'm excited to go to
celebrate your wife's birthday.
Celebrate my wife's birthday,
and then you're excited.
I am going to give her a prize first thing in the morning, though.
Great.
For actually,
what about my anniversary?
After I wrapped it, I'm flying on your anniversary.
You're going to celebrate my anniversary with me?
After I wrapped it, I hid it in the closet in her library, so it's been sitting there for this whole time. Okay. Yeah,
real dick move.
Yeah, because she never opens the closet. Mm-hmm. So then tomorrow morning, she always like even when because she's done. Today was her last day at school. Even when she's off work, she still gets up at like 5:30 in the morning when I get up, and then she just goes into her room and looks at her phone or whatever. I don't know what she does in there, but
never know what she's doing.
She hangs out in there in the morning. So I'm gonna go in there in the morning and be like, "Would you like your birthday prize now?" To which she will say, "Yes, of course."
And then you reveal it was there the whole time. That's great.
And then I will reveal. It's been 3 feet away from you this entire time. I forgot we're on the public feed now. Hopefully she ain't watching.
It's a real Saw moment.
All right, we need to end this pregame. Patrons, thank you guys so much for all of your support. Thanks for keeping the lights on, and we hope you enjoyed that hour and 15 minutes of really intellectual, deep. What's the best word to describe?
Garbage.
Hot garbage.
Shit.
Show. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you. Remember, in 2 weeks, we're off next week. We're on vacation next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Sorry, guys.
For what?
Perfect.
Yeah, nice.
Perfect.
Real good. Yeah. I'm so good at that. I'm just really good at this job.
Shall I hit record, sir?
Is Zach ready?
Oh, person who's so good at this job?
Yeah, look, I actually wrote the intro today, so I don't have to fuck this up 14 times.
Ready?
Yep. Recording.
Me too.
No, you're not. 1, 2, 3.
Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning into Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Season 16, Episode 24, A Complicated Interrogation. In our quest to learn more about the read technique, this week we heard the interrogation of Casey Anthony, and the vast difference from the previous interrogations we've covered. As usual, I'm joined by Bob and Janet, and the three of us are here to dive into your listener questions. But before we get into that, I believe we have some housekeeping.
The only real big housekeeping is that after this episode, we gone. We are on vacation next week. So remember, there will not be a main episode this Sunday. There will not be a follow-up next week for you patrons. There'll be no pregame. There'll be no nothing next week. I am Friday morning. When you guys are listening to this on Friday, I will be on a plane on my way to Montana. I will be without internet, without cell service, without screens, without children, the school children or my children, for a week. No episode this week. But when we come back, the next episode you're going to hear is going to be on the 15th. I'm actually recording that tomorrow on the 5th, and that will be so I'm giving you guys some homework. There's some housekeeping for you. Homework. I am recording tomorrow with Amanda Knox and Christopher Robinson, and we are going to be talking about their 6-part miniseries that they did a few weeks ago, or I guess they started a couple months ago on the Labyrinth feed. They did a 6-part miniseries on false confessions. So we're going to be talking about that. But if you're looking for something to listen to in the meantime, while you're waiting to kind of prep you for that conversation, and just because it's freaking awesome, go on to the Labyrinth podcast, and look for that 6-part series. It is so good. It is really, really good. Janet, you look like you got something to say.
Well, if I could just jump in, because you just said a few weeks ago, so I just don't want anyone to give up, because I found them on the feed, but they are dated for my Apple podcasts all the way back in December. So you may have to scroll. I just don't want people to be like, oh, he said it was a few weeks ago. I guess I'm just.
Yeah, by a few weeks, I mean several weeks ago.
6 months.
6 months ago.
6 months back. Yeah.
6 months back.
What you're looking for is right around the beginning of December.
Yeah.
And late November.
Yeah. And they say false confessions, number 1,
part
number 2,
1, part 2. Yeah, exactly right.
But man, they are really good. It is. I was listening to them to prep for the interview I started this weekend. I binged it for hours straight. Just kept finding stuff to do to keep listening, because it's very methodical how they go through it. I mean, they take you through, they're peppering in along the way the kind of history of interrogations and confessions and how things change from physical threats to psychological manipulation and all the different things. There's a whole episode just on the read technique, which we've been covering a lot, but we've been doing it through case study. They have one episode where they're bringing experts on and people who they have several guests who did falsely confess and were later proven innocent. And of course, Amanda herself, had signed a false confession in Italy all those years ago. It's just really good. And the read technique episode is a really good one. I liked it a lot because it just broke down literally the manual step by step, how it works. Anyway, so really, really good. That's what we're going to be talking about with Amanda and Chris, as well as Amanda's got a new book out. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit too. So, but that's what you can listen to in the meantime. Yes, Janet?
I also want to add that I'm assuming it came out at the same time. I am a Patreon supporter of Shiloh and Scott, LA Not So Confidential.
Oh, yeah.
But they also, so I'm assuming it comes out at the same time and I just get the ad-free version. But episode 208 dropped a couple of days ago, True versus False Confessions. So this is Scott and Shiloh's take on it. And as usual, they bring something totally different to the table in terms of talking about psychological studies that have been done and how robust or not robust the field of study about why people falsely confess and all of that, what exists and kind of what should be built up so that there are more studies and references. But anyway, I thought it was a great episode, and it's a great addendum to everything you're talking about, because they always have a little twist on it because of where they're coming from.
Yeah, and Shiloh had said that to me. I was just looking. I have it already downloaded for my plane ride, so I haven't heard that one yet. But I'm certainly super excited to listen to that one. This is weird. I think I mentioned it at the beginning of this episode. Nowhere was it my intention a couple months ago to be let's do a series on interrogation techniques and false confessions. but it just kind of turned into that. And it's been, for me, it's just been fascinating to go through the point. Like, that's how I ended up hooking up with Alan Hirsch and with Amanda Knox, just like reaching to find anybody just to draw more information in about it. So hopefully it's been useful for you guys or interesting to you guys. But like that, I've said it a million times. I keep beating a dead horse, but there's just something about the fact that there has, down to a science, that a process, just think about how scary this is, that a process has been developed that is intended to and is very successful in manipulating you into saying you did something, whether you did it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. Like that is fascinating to me.
Oh yeah.
Just the psychology behind all of it. So like the more information that I can get about it, hopefully the more you can get about it, the better. And speaking of which, this interrogation, and sorry for some of you that probably didn't want to be subjected to this, but it was maddening to me.
It's infuriating.
But because it was that's why I picked this one, because it was like, it's a different, like, you see these elements of Reed come through, but at the same time, like the tactics of the investigator were to me, like, it goes against everything I was ever taught, the way they talk so much. What did you guys think about it?
Oh, I mean, that's exactly what you said. I know we have a ton of comments about it, or at least I saw a ton of comments, that the detective just wouldn't shut up. He just kept going and going and going. And there were so many times where he would speak and like turn a phrase, and he would like be speaking as if he was Casey. He was like, well, I led you to here, and I led you to here. And and why would you do that? And like, why would I do that? And just, it was infuriating. And he never let her talk. I mean, very, very rarely let her actually speak.
It made me wonder, and that was one of the things when I listened to it. It was like, it was a poorly applied Reed technique, in my opinion. I'm certainly not an expert in it, but I've listened to a lot of these, and it makes me wonder, like, would it have worked on her if he had done it right? You know what I mean? Because that's what I kept thinking. Like, I think I mentioned, leading up to this in last week's follow-up, that I had a student, when I was reviewing it, I had a student that like was in the room and was listening, and they're like, who's being interviewed?
Right.
And he was like, the detective, I've only heard the detective. I haven't heard her say a word in 15 minutes. Like, it's just going and going and going.
And I know there's another tidbit about it, like one of the listeners, so I won't jump on it too much, but there was a couple spots that I caught things that she had said that I never heard before, that I didn't realize they heard before. At one point she talks about saying that her daughter called her. And
I had missed that too.
They're like, oh, what'd she say? And then they just kind of like bypassed it after that. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Her daughter.
I don't know. I'm trying to see. That's the hard thing about coming into something totally like pretty much blind, because I definitely know a fair amount about Casey Anthony, but I did not follow her trial. And I've heard people talk about it on other podcasts, but I've never done a deep dive. And so, when she said stuff like that, I was like, I don't know if they're not jumping on it because it's something she's already told them and they've already discarded it. You know what I mean? Or if they're just like not listening to her and they're just chastising her for like leading them on a wild goose chase. You know what I mean? So I just I didn't know, is that information that would have been new to them that they should have talked. I mean, listen, no matter what, whether it was new or not, they were not doing a great job. I agree.
No,
and they were doing.
And I think it was the first thing you said. I think that was my take on it. Like I said, I heard it, but I didn't register that we know for a fact that her daughter didn't call her. I think that goes to, they just weren't listening to her.
Yeah.
It was like the active listening that you should be doing in any conversation, but particularly in an interrogation. Like it was like the detective at art was trying to think about what to say next, and is like, she did, because those are the types of things that you should be using to like box her into a corner with, the way those interrogation tactics are supposed to work. Like, okay, she just gave you something you can box her into, right? Oh, she called you. When did she call you? She call you on your cell phone? When? What number did she call from? Can you show me the call log? You start pushing her, and instead it just like right past it.
Yeah, he said, what'd you talk about? And she said, oh, she told me that she read this story. And then he immediately goes back to her leading them to bad addresses, is what he keeps saying.
Well, it's like it's like they've already made up their mind that anything she says will be a lie, so nothing she says matters, but they're still asking her to tell them stuff. But like the things that they seem the most interested in and listening to are like the sort of like mean dad questions, like, and why would you do that? Why would you bring us all the way here if you weren't going to be honest? Answer me that. Why don't you answer that? Why don't you answer why you would bring us all the way out here? What are you trying to do? What are we trying to do? And it's like, that's just like trying to get a bad kid to admit they did something, not even about the case, not even about her child, just about like, you led us on a wild goose chase. Why don't you admit that? Like, it just felt so petty and like in the moment somehow.
It felt
you know
like,
what I mean?
It felt to me like the detective like got his read training from a podcast. Like, you know,
yeah,
but where it's like he knows like the kind of basic element, because like what you said, like he kept like interrupting her, whatever she was saying, and they already had their mind made up. I mean, that's one thing that I thought that this interrogation would lead us into this conversation that we're about to have right now, is a step of the read technique that we haven't talked about, is the fact that one of the things you're supposed to do is anytime they give any kind of denial, you reject it and redirect it. Always, like you're in the manual. Once you get to this phase where you've presented them with the damning evidence, you move from interview mode to interrogation mode, you do not accept any, because right, think about the whole read technique idea is it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? You just keep inching closer to where you're trying to get. As part of that, the read technique, the psychological approach to it, is to avoid them inching closer to not confessing. So any little thing they say that even starts to sound like a denial, you're supposed to say things like we're way beyond that. We're not even like right. We're not even talking about you didn't do it. We already know that's off the table. Mm-hmm. We're talking about are you a monster? Or was there some other explanation? Right. I already know you killed him. I want to know why you killed him. And it's in anything they give you, but I didn't. Like, we're not even doing that. Like, so, right. And that was that kind of what you're talking about, Janet, where it was like they already had their mind made up. It's because they did. So, and that's what I mean by like had the basic idea of how it works, but wasn't executing it correctly.
Well, yeah, because they were so sure that everything she was saying was a lie, they didn't even care what the lie was. Like, they were just like,
right.
And nothing she's saying is useful at all and even worth mentioning or even worth talking about unless the words, yes, I killed her, came out of her mouth. Right. It just seemed like they were rejecting everything else, but it was like rejecting it without listening to it. And then not using it as a tool, just sort of nothing, like it was white noise kind of.
And that's what I mean by it's like they knew the rules, they knew the steps, but they didn't know how to like apply them. They didn't know the nuance. They weren't executing the nuance of it because like that, right? So they're rejecting it and then move, but they're not like really listening. There should be like actively okay, how can I use that to spin into this? How can I box her in with this? And they weren't doing it. And then in the fact that like he straight up said like what it says in the manual, you're supposed to present them with the are you a monster or were you just put in a bad circumstance? But you don't say that. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, listen, like you're supposed to, the manual says that you reassure them, you let them know that they're a good person. You tell them, oh, we know you're a good person.
And that's what they do in Chris Watts. I think they was so effective textbook. When they say we're trying to figure out how to like understand these two Chris's. Like that's to me, that's a really nuanced, effective way of saying, are you a monster or are you misunderstood? Because you're constantly holding on to the idea of him being a good person, but you're also constantly reminding him like these monstrous things were done. And you just keep presenting that like, who
over
are these two Chris's? Right. We know both of these Chris's exist. And if you go back we're trying to reconcile that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you go back and you listen, I don't know how many times, but they continually say, we know you're a good guy. We know you're a good man. We know you
take care of your family. Yeah.
That's textbook. Like they did it exactly right to manipulate them. Whereas when we look at Casey Anthony's interrogation, they're doing this, but like I said, literally said the words from I don't know if it's the exact words from the manual, but they literally said, There's only two options here. Either I think they even said, either you're a monster or you were put in a bad circumstance. Like you're just not supposed to put it like right on his face like that. It's supposed to be a manipulation, right? So it's like, and they just did not do that.
Do you think it's interesting? I know this is going to sound like I'm like ragging on local cops, and I truly am not. I really am not. This is an open-ended question, but I did a little more research into the Chris Watts thing, because it's one of those cases that's so upsetting and disturbing. You, like many of us do with true crime, you like want to know more instead of less, so you can try to understand how this happened at all. And in doing so, you may have already said this. I guess I hadn't realized that the people who did the lie detector test and got him to confess were bureau agents. I think they were Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I don't think they were feds, but they were not local police. And it just made me wonder, like, maybe they have more expertise with this because they're brought in more often for stuff. I don't know.
I don't think it's a like federal, state, local level thing. I think it's an experience thing, though, for sure. Like, I don't know.
I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, if they are brought in for situations like this, that may mean that they have had more experience and specialized in this, and therefore have had more like the potential to understand it differently than if you just have the book training. You know what I mean? You know what you're supposed to do, but then it's happening in real time, and it is frustrating. And Casey Anthony is very frustrating. I mean, for somebody who people call a psychopath, obviously most people who say that, we're not licensed to say that anyway, but we all speculate. She's very bad at mimicking humanity. Like, if that's true, you know, because one of the things that we hear so often is like, no, if they're intelligent and manipulative, then they can really mimic human emotion and make you believe almost more than a regular person. This is not that, right? I mean, this is somebody who seems like not only could she not give a shit about her child, but like kind of nothing is interesting or important. It's all just sort of like whatever.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating part. And I keep ragging on the cop that was doing the interrogation, and I mean, I do think he did a poor job, but to acknowledge this, like, for all we know, like, they could have been the first serious interrogation he's ever had to do, and it could just be from, but it was you had this bad combination of, she just has this ability to be just completely nonchalant about anything, or just like didn't care. Like, when they were confronting her with all those lies, it's like they were going so fast. They also, you know, it seems when you're listening to it, like she just doesn't give a shit. They're like, well, we know this is a lie. We know this is a lie. And she's just like, no, well, I didn't lie about everything. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're out of their depth. Like, they're out of their depth in a way that most people might be, because no one expects to be taken to another location and told, hey, my office is right down here in the hall, and only when you get to the freaking door, now I may be misquoting, but like, that you finally are like, all right, I actually don't have an office here. Like, that is such a mind F that like, they probably are just like, where do we even start? Like, if this person does this, like what do we do?
Held the lie to the very end.
It's great. Yeah.
But like, what I was getting
really
at was, is the combination between the two is like, she has that where she's willing to, like, she knows they're about to walk in a door and find out, and she just goes with it until then. Like, there's something going on there. I don't, I'm not qualified to say what's going on there, but at the same time, because of his interrogation tactics, he never she was never made to really account for any of it. It seemed to me, because he just skipped through. There were so many things that he was like hammering on one after another, after another, after another, after another, instead of being, you know, where if it were me, you know, a non-expert that was doing it, it was like, okay, you needed, like, you told us you worked here. You don't work here. We went through all this. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, explain this to me. And I would keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing until, because you're trying to make them uncomfortable. And it didn't seem to me like she ever was uncomfortable in the entire thing, which is, that's, you know, the phase they're supposed to be at right there at the beginning of this interview. And they confront her with the evidence, you know, he lied, blah, 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 blah. The phase in the psychological steps of the read technique are, that's the point where you're supposed to make them feel like their goose is cooked. There's no way out. Oh my God. And get them into full panic mode. and then move on to the next step. But they never, she was definitely not in panic mode, it didn't seem to me, and they didn't push her to a point where she would be. So he didn't even execute that properly.
This person can feel panic, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This might just be a person who is wired and the chemicals in their brain, they just can't panic. Like, you know what I mean? There are some people that they just can't feel that.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's
I agree.
Just flatness instead of panic. But I agree with you 100% about everything you're saying about their approach. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I just don't, I agree that there was a very different approach that could have been taken. My curiosity then is like, I wonder if that would have worked, but certainly you do it the right way to elicit the best chance of getting that,
And that's what's frustrating to me is it very much seems like exactly what you're saying is that she can't be panicked because of whatever's going on in her mind. But the frustrating part is, when I go back and review it, it's like, well, but they never really
sure.
well, we don't find out because they didn't put her in that situation.
For sure.
So we don't know because I would think even, I don't know. That's the problem is you don't know because you would think like even her with that personality, if you press the right buttons, that you could get her there, but they were just like not. It's like they had an agenda or they didn't have an agenda. One or the other. Either like I'm going to say these things no matter what, or it was just like, and like you said, part of it could be from the cop side. Like, the fuck is going on? Like I had a plan, but this is insane.
Isn't part of it too that silence of allowing them the awkward silence?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
To allow them to break, and they never did that.
Yeah, and that's part of what's really stressed. I've done a lot more research into the peace model too. Is there's a lot of that like let them talk. They should be talking more than you. Let them fill the silence. Let them go. You shouldn't be saying much at all. Let them talk because it's information gathering. So, but that still should be applied in Reed also. Like, you're never going to get a confession out of it because what he did is he made it super easy on her. Right? Like, I wonder if you go to a word count, how many words the detective said compared to how many words she said. She just got to sit there and listen.
But it's so wild when they're like, and what about this person's phone number? And she's like, yeah, their phone number has changed a couple of times, so I'm actually not sure if they're going to be there. Like every person, like to a person, you are flatline comfortable saying every single person they have asked you about, their phone number has changed at least once. Every person, and you are, and she's just like, yep, their phone number has changed. Their phone number changed, so you may not be able to find. Like, wow.
Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't have to do that interrogation, but someone else probably should have. And I think, I mean, again, with zero expertise, I'm curious about like, what the Jim Clementis and Shiloh and Scotts would say of the world. But if you get the sense that like she doesn't feel guilty at all, like that feels like it's not going to be the pain point per se, then maybe you go at her for like, you sort of attack someone as a narcissist in the terms of like, you're going to be in a cage for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you present to them, because they feel that their life is worth so much and they feel that they're the smartest person in the room. How do you present to them like, this is going to be really hard for you because you're going to be living in a cage for the rest of your life. They're probably not going to kill you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you create that sense of panic? Because only the panic is only going to be about like, what if my life goes a different way than I think I deserve it to? Which is to be
if you're
happy
dealing
and
with a
live
true
and be free.
sociopath.
Yeah, totally.
You got to hit.
But there was nothing like that. It was just like guilt. Why don't you feel guilt? This is your child. Why don't you feel guilt? It's like at a certain point, you might have to accept she feels no guilt.
Right.
You know?
I want to ask real quick because while we're talking about process, because I know you were busy this afternoon, we had a kind of a late comment come in or a question come in from Tracy. Did you grab that one? Or
I don't think so.
Okay, I want to read that one real quick because I want to address it because it kind of goes on to some of this. This is what makes me think that like there are parts of it that could work had they been applied properly. So Tracy said, what stuck out to me most was when the detective talked about dealing with mothers whose kids had drowned in a pool. It's almost like she took what the detective was saying as to a way out, but not until later. And that is interesting because it is kind of a delay. That's part of the technique, right? You give them their way out. Like, here's the you're not a monster solution. And she didn't take it then. It wasn't applied right then. But ultimately, when she does speak about what happened, what's the story we get? Drown in a pool.
Yeah.
So just I don't know. I don't know if that's why, but it is interesting that scenario was kind of presented to her in this interview, and then later that's the scenario that we hear.
Well, then that would be a weirdly effective accidental read technique.
Yeah.
Moment.
Imagine if you would just shut the hell up and listen to her for a minute, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have worked sooner.
Yeah. Wow.
With that, we've got a few other listener questions we should probably get to since we've been yapping for 20 minutes.
Well, Sunday echoes what we've all been saying, which is why couldn't the detectives just shut up? So nothing that, nothing that we don't already strongly agree with. Sunday, agree with you very much so. Let's go back to Gail, because that's what you said when you mentioned that someone had said something about it. Did I hear her say she received a call from her daughter the day before this interview? Did they ever ask her later why such a blatant lie? Had anyone heard that before? Had she been telling people that she got that call before? Couldn't that have been a point at which you let that story unfold more and sort of see if you can have it trip her up?
It's stuff like this. It makes me wonder, like, how. And years ago, I think I watched Jim Clementi's docuseries on the case, and I remember Jim actually consulted with the prosecutor on this. And I remember him being mad that because they for whatever reason, I remember Jim saying that he felt like the prosecutor was overcharging her, like they didn't give the jury enough options,
or they gave them too. They gave they could have. It is something like that. It's that they had either too many options. Someone in the chat will know. Or that they didn't give enough options, so it was either this or that, and they felt like they couldn't go all the way.
That they didn't give enough. They made it first degree, period.
Yeah, I think there was another option, but it wasn't. It wasn't what Jim was suggesting to them, whatever it was.
It was first degree murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated manslaughter, and those were all found not guilty.
So
there were other options that he was saying that they could have at least gotten her locked up, because the thing is, you look at, like, when from the interview that she told the detectives, it's just like, on a common sense standpoint for me, like, you told the detectives your daughter called and talked to you at a time when everyone knows, like, it's proven your daughter was dead at that time.
Right.
Like, how can you not know that she's hiding something at that point?
Yeah.
You don't make, it doesn't seem like you would make that up for no reason, unless you know that you're trying to obfuscate something.
Didn't you say at the beginning of the episode that part of the confusion was that there was this sense of, like, maybe her father had something to do with it, and they were, she was protecting him, or
her defense used that as their defense at trial.
Okay.
Was that her dad had, I don't remember if it was that the baby had drowned in the pool or whatever it was, but that but then it was like years later, she did an interview, and she said that her dad, wasn't a few years back, it was pretty controversial. They did like a documentary with her, a new documentary, and in that, I think it was like 2022. And she had said that that her dad, showed her Kaylee's lifeless body. That's the one thing that was, like, that stuck out in my mind, is that she had acknowledged that she knew that, which means when she was doing this interview, even if, and I don't believe that story personally either, but even if you believe that story, that when she was doing this interview saying she doesn't know where she is, and that she had called her the day before, that she was lying. She already knew that she was dead. So yeah. And it certainly didn't seem like it was to protect her father, because really it seemed like more like she was trying to throw her father under the bus.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Sue says, in the cases you have featured, it would seem that the person did not have a lawyer with them while being questioned. Would a lawyer have been able to recognize that the read technique was being used and attempt to disrupt it? And then she goes on to talk about, like, when some young vulnerable people would have been particularly susceptible, and made her wonder if Jennifer Jeffley was subjected to the read technique. She says, I have always thought the way she was treated was particularly outrageous. So two pieces there. Is it fair to say that like do cops even try the Reed technique if somebody is there with their lawyer present? I just feel like that would get shut down so fast. But
none of it would happen.
yeah,
An attorney is going to say, "Don't answer a single question." That's why when you get an attorney, they will sit down, they will be the heavy in the room and say, "We're not answering questions." Their position, a good defense attorney's position is, if you think my client did this, go out and find evidence.
Right.
They're not giving you the evidence. You have to go find the evidence. So yeah, so it's not that they would recognize the elements of the Reed technique. They just wouldn't allow any of it to happen at all. As far as Jennifer Jeffley goes, we don't know because her interviews, her hours of interviews without a parent or lawyer weren't recorded. We just have no, that's been a few years ago, but we have no, that with her, she's a child. They went and got her, they went and got her, I want to say like Reese's Pieces, because I feel like I remember I said it. I said Reese's, and someone reminded me of that. But they got her candy and they went and got her food, and I think they didn't put her in an interrogation room. It was like at a desk.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I don't know if like Reed technique was applied, but I mean essentially that's what we ended up with. So I'm guessing there was some version of, because remember what we ended up with was that, okay, well, she didn't do it, but she was there and she was the lookout. Right. Yeah, which is like, again, that's classic Reed technique. Like, get them there.
We got her there involved. At least. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and in some form or another, probably, but we just don't have a recording to know for sure.
If something happened to someone, this is totally hypothetical, but just I'm thinking of it because of what you just said about the lawyer. So okay, let's say something happens to someone that we know, and we might actually be able to help because we did, see the person 3 days before or whatever. It's not that we're the last person to see them, but we did have an interaction with them. The police call, they say, we'd love to ask you some questions. We're just trying to kind of fill out the picture of this person's last, week or whatever. And we say, because we've been told to over and over, let me just contact my attorney. I'm just going to want to go ahead and have a lawyer present. So then you get your lawyer, you come in with your lawyer. They don't read you your Miranda rights or anything. They're like, thank you so much for helping us out. We know you want to help us with this investigation. Then what is that? So is the lawyer just sort of there to like bear witness?
Yeah. So there's, you don't have to be Mirandized unless it's a suspect interview and it's custodial, which means you are not free to leave. Once you are a suspect and they're telling you you're not free to leave, then you have to be Mirandized. That's when you have the right to remain silent, anything like that. What a lawyer would be doing in that circumstance is they would be listening for any hint that they are interviewing you as a suspect.
Right? So they would be like, so you guys had a great lunch. You didn't have any arguments or anything? Like, would that be like a moment where you think an attorney would be like,
I would suspect that, an attorney at that point, if they're like, hey, we're just trying to talk to witnesses, people that saw her or whatever. And you're like, yeah, last time I saw her was on Thursday. We just went out to dinner, and we went here. Do you know what time? I can look at my phone. I think, we text. So yeah, so it was at 6:00. We went to dinner here. I think they would just sit there and allow any of that to happen. But then they're like, so tell me about that dinner. Did she say anything that led you to believe she was having a problem with anybody? No, we just had normal dinner. Did you guys have a fight or anything? I think at that point a lawyer would be like, okay, we're gonna stop there. This is moving beyond us just being a witness. We're gonna go ahead and go now. Gotcha. I think a lawyer would put us that's their job, is to protect you, to make sure it's like, nope, they're moving into talking to you like a suspect. We're not doing that.
And then everyone listening to this right now is probably like me and thinks, and then the police are like, stop everything else. We found our person, because
there's
she
the
wouldn't
killer
answer
right
that question. Put all of your focus into getting to the bottom of that.
Yeah, because it's scary, because you think of it like, imagine if you just like witnessed, say you're just like out, probably not so much here, but I mean it could happen anywhere. But say you're just, we're out to dinner with some friends, or go out, and all of a sudden we're walking out to our car and there's a shooting. Somebody gets shot right in front of us, and the police show up and they're asking you like, what do you see? Like, do you need a lawyer there? I think I feel confident enough in my understanding of the system, not that I'm an expert, that I could that I would probably navigate that without an attorney. Like, if they're like, oh, you witnessed this happen, can you tell me what happened? I'm like, yeah, I came out, I heard a gunshot, there was a guy in a car over there and he drove away. That's all I saw.
Right.
But for me, if they're like, well, do you have a gun? Where were you? You know, if they any question like that, and be like, I'm not answering any more questions. If any more questions, you can contact my attorney because I'm not getting roped into that. But that's a scary thing is that there's this whole piece where like you genuinely would be really easy for you just to help the police out and you want to do that. But it's also very scary how we've seen it time and time and time again. And one thing you'll learn on Amanda and Chris's series that we're going to be talking about is like how many wrongful convictions that are DNA proven wrongful convictions contained false confessions. And it's like, if you, and the number's staggering, and is like, if you just had shut up, then you would have, because obviously there was no evidence, because once they tested the evidence, they proved you innocent. But talking is what gets people into that mess. So I'm always real leery to tell, like with my kids, I'm just like, no. I'm sorry, if you're talking to, if the police want to talk to you about something, you be very respectful and tell them, I definitely want to help you, but I'm not speaking to you without my attorney, and that's it. Period. Because I know how that death by 1,000 cuts works, right? And they don't start out by saying, "Hey, could I talk to you real quick because I think you might have murdered them." Right. And you're like, no, it's like, yeah, just as a witness. And it's like all of a sudden and you hear it in interviews of innocent people all the time. And all these cases we review, and even the ones we screen that you guys never hear about, like you hear it happen all the time where it's like, you realize the moment they realize like, oh, wait, what the hell? Like,
I know. And it's always like,
then you think back, it's like, shit, they've been talking to me like a suspect for 25 minutes and I didn't even realize it.
I know. Well, because you always hear the like, look, we're just talking to everybody. This is so that it helps us do our jobs better. We can rule everybody out.
Yeah,
there's obviously we're going to rule you out, like that kind of.
Yeah. We're just trying to make sure we can clear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, yeah. Kathy was also feeling that there's the chilling level of coolness there in terms of those answers, and so did Kate. So those were mostly just comments. We don't have any further questions per se about that particular interview, and I do think we covered a lot. But yeah, I mean, you do this, and then I walk away feeling like I need all of the information surrounding these cases if I didn't already have it. So
yeah,
I guarantee you, in a couple weeks, I'm gonna be like, man, I really did a deep dive on the Casey Anthony thing. That's so messed up and awful.
Yeah, I'm trying not.
Which I already know it is.
Yeah, getting sucked into because for me, it's just like I'm just really trying to hear. Like your listeners have asked some great questions throughout this process over the last couple of months, that have like led me to like, well, what would it sound like for somebody that, like with Chris Watts, is like somebody who is guilty and it's applied. What does that sound like? What does it sound like? All these. So I'm just really more interested in the process. I will not be doing a deep dive into Casey Anthony because I did enough of it just watching the docu series, and that case is so infuriating.
I didn't watch that. Yeah, you know what? I have my other good homework to do is to listen to Amanda's podcast.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, so that's and yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up for here because as I've mentioned, I'm just a couple days away from taking a break, so I'm perfectly happy calling it a day.
Great. I do actually have an underestimated question, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
I was going to slide it in with housekeeping, but we moved past it too quickly. Monica says, you said Jenny Decker, author of the book Redacted, A Search for the Truth About the Murder of Jeanette Robertson. Were the students able to get a copy? And if so, did they read it?
I think most of the book is pretty much kind of online on Decker's website as like a blog.
Oh, okay, great.
I don't know that any of them got any like a physical copy of the book. This was the tricky part with that. So we interviewed Jenny. Jenny came on, and the students spent over an hour with her, talking to her about the case. But one of the things that I was pushing with the kids in just teaching them how to do this kind of work is they need to rely on source material. So not specifically with that book, but just in general, like, don't go reading someone else's work and let that bias your mind and because their opinions are going to be in there, and then where do your opinions come from? So I know a couple of them I know read a lot of it early on, if not all of it. But I was really directing them once we got the case file was your work needs to, so everything you heard from the Jeanette Robertson series of Underestimated, those 5 episodes, by the way, the final one.
Yeah, dropped to the day right now that we're recording.
Yeah, on Wednesday. And yeah, those kids did such an incredible job. I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
But once they got that source material, my direction to them was you need to be doing original work, original thoughts, using the direct source material that you have and working with experts. So that's
nice.
And all the different in Underestimated, all the different groups, the 5 groups, they all had different types of cases and different approaches to it. Jeanette's case was one that was just right, and that's what Jim had said when we first told him a little bit about it, but months ago. Jim Clementi, who's featured heavily on this last episode, was like, this is the type of case that is right for a profile for behavioral analysis. There's just not a lot of forensic physical evidence. They have no idea as far as suspects go. It's wide open. Like, those are the types of cases. So that group, that was the angle they took in their episodes, was, they laid out in the first 3 episodes, laid out the elements of the crime and really broke down the story. And then in these last 2, they went through and they broke down all the behaviors. In episode 4, for them, which I think is probably episode 18 of Underestimated, but you'll see at the 4th one of the Jeanette Robertson series, they broke down all the behaviors of the crime, and then they wrote a whole victimology report and profile, sent it to Jim, because Jim had come in and taught them how to do a profile, sent it to Jim to review. And then the episode that aired this week, Jim comes back and he gives his critique of their profile, which was pretty incredible. I mean, this is a group of teenagers that put this together, and he's got, you'll hear it in the episode, there's a few minor things that he tweaks, or not even, more so adds to the profile.
I was going to say, yeah, it's supplemental, but what he adds supports where they're already going, kind of.
Yeah. And so then in that episode, you hear it go right into that, to them comparing the profile of the suspect. But this all happened weeks ago. So like, once they had, their profile, and then had an actual profiler expert look at it and give them, okay, this is the pool of suspects, the type of suspect we should be looking for. Then they went through and applied that profile to all of the suspects that have been spoken to, and it narrowed it down to one very specific, who was never a suspect, one person who just perfectly fits into the profile. And they were very careful to point out, and for any of you that listen to it, I want to be, double down on that, is, that doesn't mean that's the person that did it. It doesn't even mean the profile is right. And what they say in the episode, which is 100% accurate, is that, a profile isn't a determination of guilt. A profile is an investigative tool to launch off of, to start investigating. So this person very, very well could be 100% innocent, cleared, no problem, but it is someone that the police had not looked into as a suspect, at least in the source materials we have. We've never seen anything of it. That seems to be a really solid lead, and they're changing the direction of the investigation. That we seem to have the detective Zeri was interested to hear the information that we're giving him. So it's a really good job. I recommend all of them, but if you only want to listen to 5 episodes, if that's all you got time for, listen to the Jeanette Robertson series, because that group just knocked my socks off in the work.
No, they were wonderful. But yeah, all the episodes are so great. I mean, it's really clear from each group how seriously they took this, and how they managed to kind of, as young people, balance professionalism with a real emotional desire to make a difference. And it's very inspiring. I'm very proud.
Yeah. So that's another thing you can listen to over the next week. Go check out, you can binge the Underestimated podcast. Check out the work that this new generation did, because it's really impressive. Also, something I'll be gone. I won't even be able to see it because I won't have internet. But on Monday, this coming Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, it's our local news station. It's WSBT. But if you go to the WSBT website, they came into the WSBT crew came into the school this week and filmed with us for like 2 hours. And they're doing like a long form I mean, long form for the news, so it's like a 5-minute segment.
Yeah.
It's project education or something like that. They do like they feature like stuff that, but it's a whole feature on what the classes did and what they did with the podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, cool. I'm so glad you remember to tell us about that. That's a big, cool deal.
Yeah. And
almost,
I definitely
it feels like you maybe almost didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyways, check out of South Bend, Indiana, WSBT. It'll be Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time is when it's going to air, and I'm sure it'll be on their website. So check that out. And with that being said, I'm ready for a vacation, guys. Tomorrow's my last day of school.
Safe travels.
So we're going to wrap this thing up. We love you guys. When we come back, you guys will have the Amanda Knox, Christopher Robinson interview. And then the next episode should be episode 1 of season 17. That's the plan. So we'll talk to you guys then. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Stop on the recording.
That's so cool about the news.
Yeah, it was, and we've done several things, but it was cool that our local like news came out. And they interviewed me.
You've done several things. What other things are you not telling us about?
Did I not tell you guys about? There was,
I don't think so.
There was a news crew out of Grand Rapids, which is a little further north from us in Michigan, that came.
I don't think you told
back
me.
in February and did a story about the kids.
No, I don't think that you told us any of this.
Yeah,
Zap, back me up.
And then a few weeks later,
I don't think so. I know MLive didn't MLive.
MLive just did one, which is a state.
But I think we talked about that one.
Yeah, they've done a few things, but this is first. That'll be like a when she says it's gonna be like 4.5, 5 minutes. I was like, oh, that'll be cool. But yeah, they interviewed me. They interviewed our superintendent, and they interviewed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the students. Cool. Shot some B-roll with them and stuff. So yeah, it should be a really cool story.
Right on. That's so great.
So hang on, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. I'll chat with you guys for just a second. So we're ending the stream, guys. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.